sponsored by Aura, the smart and simple way to stay safe online. If you're anything like me, you're tired of the endless spammers and scammers calling you all the time. But how do they actually get our numbers? Did you know that data brokers are exposing and selling your personal information over and over again, and they're making big bucks doing it? Now, Aura can help identify those data brokers, and they will legally make them stop from selling your information. But Aura can do so much more than that. It's actually your one-stop shop for online safety. They do VPN, antivirus, parental controls, they do credit monitoring, and so much more. And they do it all at an affordable price with the peace of mind of knowing that you'll get up to $1 million in identity theft insurance for every adult and for up to 5 adults on a family plan. Aura is a US-based company with a 100% US-based customer support staff. Let Aura be your online protection shield while you focus on what matters most to you. Stop data brokers from exposing and selling your personal information. Go to our sponsor, aura.com/inspired. Start your 14-day trial today and see if your personal information has been compromised. Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. It's John Nolan here. Welcome to another Inspired live stream. We're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole, we're free, and we're winning. It is Friday, February 23rd, 2024. And my friends, we're adding a new motto, and we're going to continually bring that motto. Do what you can with what you have where you are. Okay, so before we go into today's subject, state of emergency, continuity of government, what that means, and is there potentially a much, much bigger picture? And have we actually looked at this from the right angle? We're going to go a little deep into this today. I think it's an important subject. I think at the end of this live stream, you might think about all of it a little differently. But first, I want to just send my love, my respect, my gratitude, my appreciation to all of the people out there in the world, 20 plus nations and growing, the farmers, the small business owners, the teachers, the everybody's who's out there protesting, getting together, creating this beautiful freedom movement, showing up every single day. Thank you so much, my friends. Courage is contagious. Let me show this to you. Courage is contagious. Christine made this beautiful shirt. I absolutely love it. I think it's a wonderful statement. I just got it yesterday. I can't wait to see what kind of conversations this is going to trigger. If you want yours, this is a limited edition. Check out the link in the video description and get your Courage is Contagious. There's mugs, there's everything. All righty. Well, let's jump into the subject today and welcome everybody in the live chat too. Rumble, YouTube, and X. We have heard a lot in recent months and years, especially since a guy that we interviewed a few months back, Derek Johnson, came on the scene, and he makes a compelling case. Just like Patel Patriot, a few years before that, came on the scene from a different perspective. And basically, while they're talking about these things a little differently, they're both saying that we are under what is called a continuity of government. It's an extraordinary state. And the continuity of government programs are very real and were established in the 1960s, officially, Cuban Missile Crisis and whatnot. Now, while not every nation has that much information on that subject, it is assumed that every nation on earth has a continuity of government program, which simply means that if the government is for some reason under attack, the nation is under attack, there is a serious threat, the government can activate certain procedures that then put all essential functions of the government in a different state. So maybe it's delegated to a different group. That group is under different protections. It's being put into underground bunkers or whatever. Or there are multiple groups that are a contingency program. The basic message is a continuity of government is in place to ensure the essential functions of the government. Okay, so that's that. Let's look a little bit at the history of continuity of government, and then I'll make a case. I'll make a case that probably is very different than from what people have said before, but in my mind, it makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's look at this here. So, continuity of government in the United States began in the 1960s during the Cold War as a response to the threat of nuclear warfare. The program was created to ensure the survival of essential federal government leaders and agencies in the event of a severe crisis. It's not a bad thing, by the way. Okay, let's move forward. President John F. Kennedy signed the first executive order related to COG on February 12, 1962. Since then, the program has been updated and expanded to include various measures for maintaining the continuity of all three branches of government. The president or Congress can keep the activation of continuity of government secret. This is an important one. This is what a lot of people have not really realized. If they deem it necessary for national security. The continuity of government readiness conditions system allows for varying levels of readiness and activation, and the president has the authority to change these levels without making a public announcement. This is a big one. They can keep it secret. They can change things. They can change authorities. They can change things around and never announce it. Okay, this is a big one. Let's move forward. The activation of continuity of government from 2001 ended on May 9, 2003. That was after 9/11. George Bush had announced continuity of government status, and it was deactivated after 628 days. We're gonna get back to this presentation here in a little bit. But so, to be sure that continuity of government has officially happened before, a lot of people don't know this. Officially was initiated after 9/11. I found this clip of George W. Bush, the president, during 9/11 and afterwards, talking about it. It's very rare. It's very seldom that you hear that.
The continuity of government issue very seriously because our nation was under attack. And I still take the threats that we receive from Al-Qaeda killers and terrorists very seriously. I have an obligation as the president, and my administration has an obligation to the American people to put measures in place that should somebody be successful in an attack in Washington, D.C., there's an ongoing government. That's one reason why the vice president was going to undisclosed locations. This is serious business, and we take it seriously. And until this country has routed out terrorists wherever they try to hide, we're not safe. But I will tell you, there are people still in this world who want to harm America, and we're going to chase them down. And it's going to take a while.
Okay, so the interesting thing was this. This is a synchronistic moment. I had a thought in my mind about continuity of government that I've been walking with for quite some time now. And when I listened to this clip, it became clear to me that for some reason, it confirmed what I had assumed. And I'll tell you in a moment here, but let me just finish this little thing here. This is where George Bush said, officially it ended on May 9, 2003. So this is like 3 years, almost 3 years, 2.5 years of continuity of government. And we'll get into what that actually means and why so many things make sense once you understand that, okay? So the first official one was the Cuban Missile Crisis, and then you had 1970, 1973, 1974, 1979, 1980, 91, 2001, 2005, Katrina, and 2020. Now, who came out and ever announced that there was a continuity of government program in 2020? They didn't say those words. I've never heard anyone say those words. However, they said all the other words that let us know that this was what actually was happening. They said it's an existential threat. They said we're at war. They declared states of emergency. They activated certain emergency measures that are very big, emergency production and whatnot. And here's the interesting thing. The federal government has not discontinued all continuity of government measures that were activated during the pandemic. While some measures have been scaled back as the pandemic situation has improved, others remain in place to ensure the government's ability to function effectively during ongoing public health challenges. The government continues to monitor the situation and adjust its response accordingly. And I'll tell you when I really started thinking about this in a bigger way. I thought about this often, but really in a bigger way was 2 years ago. I had to go to DC, and it was a Tuesday morning. So I had been to DC before, so it was a Tuesday morning in August, I believe. And a Tuesday morning in DC had always been a busy morning. Like, there's a lot going on in the city. There's convoys going, there's the Capitol Police, there's Secret Service, there's sirens everywhere because some diplomat or some government representative or the president's moving around. And so there's a lot of action. That Tuesday morning, 9:30, I was the first car at every red light in the center of DC. Nothing was going on. Major federal buildings were closed down, like the FBI. Closed down, no one there. Very little movement anywhere in and out. Okay, so I thought back then we're in an extraordinary state, and it was already 2022. We're in an extraordinary state. There's definitely, and I still feel this way. However, I don't think that Derek Johnson and Patel Patriot and the others got it completely right. And I don't want to say that their work is bad. It's extraordinary research, extraordinary connections. Takes a lot of work, a lot of thought. A lot of deep thinking to make these connections happen. What they say is that one says that Donald Trump activated continuity of government in 2020 after the election. And the other, Derek Johnson, says that it was actually activated, I believe, in 2017, according to him, and has been in place ever since. Continuity of government. I think that continuity of government programs have been activated much longer than we think they were. I think it goes back probably decades. And I think that for decades, we have been in always an extraordinary state of government. Now, state of emergencies were continually declared. You can read that up in executive orders. Go through the presidents on the White House website. You'll find there's a category where you can read up on all their public executive orders, okay? The executive orders for states of emergency, they're being declared all the time by all presidents, and very seldomly are these states of emergency actually statements ever being deactivated, where you end that state of emergency. That almost never happens. If you combine all these states of emergency together, what do? They give the government extraordinary authorities and powers that they don't have in a normal state of government. We haven't had, in my opinion, a normal state of government for decades. Why am I saying this? Well, you look at the Constitution and even at the laws on the books. Now, even if you think that the federal government is a corporation and that the Constitution applies only to the corporation, even then, what I will say now applies in my book. If you look at the laws on the books that the bureaucratic state has to adhere to, and this is an important statement, then they are, according to the laws that we can look into and according to the Constitution as we read it, they're constantly breaking them, constantly. But this is not how bureaucrats operate. Bureaucrats don't have a problem. They don't think about, and I'm talking about the average bureaucrat, they're not thinking about right or wrong, good or bad. They're looking at the rules and regulations and laws. And everything they do has to fit in that scheme. If it doesn't, they are not protected. What happens if they're not protected? They're vulnerable, okay? So in my view, the bureaucratic state, the government, probably all branches, are operating under extraordinary powers and under rules and regulations that apply to the continuity of government program rather than the regular government program that we believe they're working under. So in their book, they're not breaking the laws because they're under a different state. They're in a different state of governance that gives them extraordinary powers. You can't tell me that in the last decades, with all the rules and laws that were broken by bureaucrats and other government officials, that no one was ever really held accountable, because no one really ever was held accountable. Think about it. Who was ever held accountable for the for the plethora? But the thing is, because there is quarrel and fights within different sections of government, they would call each other, not just call each other out, but make sure that the other person is punished unless they were all operating under a different system. Now, why wouldn't someone come out and blow the whistle? First, I think it serves everybody that's in that system to do it. Secondly, I think that if somebody came out and would actually tell us the real extent to continuity of government programs, they would be immediately removed permanently. Because if this is indeed a secret continuity of government program, then absolute top secret, then they couldn't know, they couldn't share this, or they would be in deep trouble. That's why I think all the former military people and all the other former government officials who've come out over the last years and said we're under COG were actors and misleading people. They were pointing them in the wrong direction. And here's why also. When, in my understanding, when continuity of government is activated because there is an existential threat or an attack, known or unknown, then you're basically in defense mode. Now, who is in charge of defense mode? The military. The military is the line of defense. It is under civilian leadership in peace times, right? But we don't know what happens in COG exactly. The commander-in-chief, okay, that's still supposed to be a civilian, but the rest would be under military. So if you come out and you blow the whistle on anything secret connected to the military, you're in deep trouble. I've met a few special forces operators over the years. They all have their 50 years or whatever where they can't talk about operations. Never, ever has anyone ever said anything. The descriptions that they give you of their operations are very, very, very vague. You don't know which part of it. They just say, we would do things like that, or there would be this and that involved, but it's very vague stuff that you can read up on Wikipedia. They never share this. If you are military or former military and you share secrets that are classified, you get court-martialed. You could be in for treason. These are serious things. I do believe that we are in an extraordinary state of government, but I believe we've been in that for decades. I believe whole generations were born and raised in that extraordinary state of government. And that's why we're moving further and further away from constitutional principles. We're moving further away from what we believe the laws actually are. Whether we believe they're good or bad, we're moving away from them, and nobody seems to get in trouble over not enforcing them. Nobody seems to get in trouble over not enforcing the laws on the books. But because of how a bureaucratic state operates and because of how they think, they have to be protected at all times by orders or regulations. They have to be protected. I've never seen a system, maybe some bad apples, but I've never seen a system of bureaucrats that will bend the rules unless they are protected. So they are protected by extraordinary powers and authorities, I believe. I believe we have been in that state, and I believe that we're now waking up to this. It's not just that the government has been corrupted. I believe this particular piece, the continuity of government program, has been abused. And what indicates to me that this is really happening is that when I look at media appearances by senior officials in the last decades, you will hear certain phrases over and over again. Existential threat. How often do we hear this? What does it mean when a government official, a representative of an administration, of the executive branch, comes out and says, we are facing an existential threat? That means something. That's not just words. It's not just rhetoric. It signals something. It signals that gives them the authority to go under extraordinary circumstances. So that's how they're signaling this to us. And they have been signaling this to us. We're just becoming slowly but surely aware of it. And this is why also, not just in the United States, but worldwide, whole administrations have committed crimes under the laws that you and I know openly, but I believe they were operating under different laws secretly. That's what protects them. That's why nobody really ever goes to jail or gets into trouble. See, because the system in itself has created this matrix of rules and regulations. So it must operate within it. It doesn't mean everybody does. Some people are absolutely willing to break those. But the system as a whole, that's all it knows. That's what it breathes. It can't go beyond it. You go into a government office and try to talk common sense when a form doesn't make sense, or when something that they want you to fill out doesn't make sense. They don't care. They don't care. That's the regulation. That they will tell you that over and over again. This is how they operate. So what does this mean? It just means that we're discovering greater truths than we ever thought were possible. And that perhaps the appearance of a guy like Trump wasn't significant in the ways that a lot of people thought it was, but it was only significant because it through the brass and very harsh language and very direct language, it sort of smacked people a little bit. It was like smacks in the face and like, hey, pay attention, something's going on here. It doesn't mean good or bad guy. It doesn't mean right or wrong. It just means we've gotten like the cold shower over the last years. And if we use our logic, then we must come to the conclusion that we are in a completely different state of government than we thought we were, and probably worldwide. And if we begin implementing these truths on all levels, that's the only way how we can, turn the page on this. And I've said this before. I'm not an anti-government guy. I don't like the word government, but I'm not an anti-system guy, because systems are created in our operation here at Inspired. We create systems that work, that help people see what is my duty, what is your duty, how do they come together, how do we respect each other, how do we communicate, how do we make things work. That's what a system does. A system makes sure that a greater group of people can coherently and peacefully live with each other and agree on certain things, right? So I'm not against the system, but I think we have been lied to over decades, and that is wrong on all levels. That is wrong on all levels. We've been fundamentally lied to, because we still believe at this point that we have here 3 branches of government, and that the supreme law is the Constitution. And I just think that's been deactivated for a very long time. It's not that people broke that law. They just activated a different set of rules because they said it's extraordinary. We're in a state of emergency. So at what point, what must happen that the reset button is pushed and we say, hey, we got to return to a constitutional government. We got to remove all the rules and regulations that are not consistent with the Constitution. We got to even remove probably certain programs and agencies that are not consistent with the Constitution. And by remove, I mean decommission. I'm not saying go and drag people out of building. Decommission. Scale them back over time. Make sure that we return to something that we can all agree on, a structure that we can all agree on. There's so many things to consider in a time of transformation, including the very fundamentals that allow us to live together in individual freedom, but with a structure that serves us all. Right now, we are the servants. We serve the structure, and that's not how it's supposed to be, right? So, as I've said many times before, the fundamental order was disturbed. The fundamental order is Creator, Supreme Being, created everything, created man, as in man and woman, the capital M, and we created a system that's down here. Now the system has removed God, put itself in its place, and made us the servant. This is the structure, this is the reality that we find ourselves in. So now we need to reestablish, we need to make things, put them in order again, in a proper hierarchy. And we can only do that by embodying our natural and rightful place. You don't do this with war. You do this by simply embodying your rightful place. That's the key. Knowing where you stand in that hierarchy. You must stand above the system because the system was created by us. It's created by mankind. This is the key element that we're really talking about here. It's very bright here today. Maybe that's a good sign. It's a lot of light. Again, I want to make one thing clear. I'm not dismissing other researchers that like Derek Johnson or Patel Patriot and others. In many ways, as I said, I think their work is quite extraordinary. The research that has gone into, and they have uncovered a lot of and connected a lot of dots. I just think it goes way beyond that. And I think that when we think a political process is happening because we look at the laws and the rules on the books, and it doesn't make sense how it then actually unfolds. And you think, well, because of what I'm seeing, a lot of people should go to jail. I think we must be under a different set of rules. And I would encourage anybody who's watching and listening, who has deeper knowledge into this, who might have been part of the government, who might have seen things that are very weird and strange and unusual, send us an email, info@inspiredchannel.net. We would love to learn more. This is a theory that I have. Clearly, it's my opinion. It's not a fact. It's not a statement of facts. And I'm happy to learn more. And I won't rest until we get to the truth. And last but not least, and I want to say this clearly, for those who are watching, who are in the bureaucratic state, who are in government agencies, who are in positions, this is not a fight against you whatsoever. We consider ourselves a family of brothers and sisters everywhere. And the bottom line is that you and your family, your loved ones, your children are just as affected by what we are experiencing as we are. We're not different. We're the same in this. We're in the same boat. And I think it's high time that no matter where you are in this structure, in this matrix, that we realize that we're in the same boat, affected by the same things, and suffering under some of the same things that come from the skies and come from the water and come from God knows where, and unite on these issues and fix them and change them. That's what I'm here for. I'm never gonna lead a crusade, because that doesn't work. It just creates another system of oppression, and that's not what we need. We need common sense. We need humanity, or mankind, it's a better word, to come together. We need connected hearts and minds, and we need to connect with our creator, the prime creator. Again, that's the key point. No system that is based on freedom can exist if we don't have a spiritual connection that gives us an unshakable, unquenchable moral compass. If we don't have that, we can't have a system of freedom. If we don't instill in ourselves and connect and in the next generations and help them have that connection again, that will guide them properly, then we will never have a free system. If you look at the constitutional system of the Iroquois nation, the Six Nations, actually, the Confederacy, a lot of the U.S. Constitution is based on that Iroquois Constitution. But that Constitution is based in freedom. It absolutely acknowledges individual freedom. But more importantly, it is based on spirituality and spiritual principles that every single member embodies. And only because they embodied it worked. They had peace for 1,000 years there. They literally had peace for 1,000 years. And by the way, their peacemaker, the peacemaker that came and taught him these things and taught him these principles, because they were in so much turmoil and warfare thousands and thousands of years ago, the story of that peacemaker and the story of Jesus is not, I mean, there are certain similarities, very interesting similarities. It seems to be that we periodically get some extraordinary help. We just might be in that period again where we get some extraordinary help and remember some extraordinary things. So that's why we always say that spirituality, a true honest relationship with God, the Creator, is the fundament. That's the foundation for everything else. Without that, we can't build anything else that will last, that will be harmonious, and that will be free. And the key element that allows us to do that is to discover the truth, the real truth, not a version of it, the real truth. This is what we strive to do on a daily basis. We really strive for that excellence. We strive for it. Doesn't mean we're excellent, but we strive for it. All right, my friends, I hope this was some food for thought. And let me know what you think. I'd love to hear in the comments if you think that this is actually a possibility, and that what we perceive as an administration and a government is more or less actors doing one thing here and operating on a completely different set of rules here. Doesn't seem so off to me. Once again, to all of you out there, everywhere, not just you protesting, but everywhere, my friends, courage is contagious. My wife made this beautiful shirt. If you want one like that, or a mug or something, go check the link in the live stream description. I will be back again tomorrow. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being with us. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll be back with you again very soon.